Greetings, everyone. Would like to welcome you to today's Winslow Technology and Dell Technologies group talk about the PowerEdge server, specifically accelerated automation, security, and scalability. My name is Alex Zagievsky. I am a Senior Solutions Architect with Winslow Technology Group, and joining me today is Barry Fellman.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Barry Fellman. I'm a data center engineer for Dell, have been with them for 14 years, and currently specializing in the server and compute arena here at Dell. So glad you're all with us today, and I hope you get something out of this.
Thanks, Barry. Appreciate you joining me, and thanks for everyone for taking the time to join us for this presentation. Just as a matter of agenda, we're going to cover a brief overview of Winslow Technology Group. Then Barry and I will present the main topic at hand, which is the accelerated automation, security, and scalability with Winslow and the Dell PowerEdge servers. Then afterwards, hopefully time will permit, we will cover some question and answer, as well as do a quick wrap up. As a special treat today, all attendees will receive a $50 credit to Grubhub, and everyone is eligible to win a Yeti Tundra 35 hard cooler. Throughout the presentation, we're sprinkling in a total of 3 questions, which are based directly on the content presented. So what we would like for you to do is, utilizing the webinar's Q&A chat function, send us your answer. The first correct answer wins. Now, the only caveat here is you cannot win more than once. So we appreciate the eagerness of those who may have the correct answer first time around more than once. I'm afraid we need to give everyone else a chance. At this point, I also would like to introduce Bahar Chinati, who would like to say a couple of words to all of our attendees. Bahar?
Thank you for that introduction. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Perfect. First, thanks everyone for joining this session today. I'm excited about the content that's going to be presented. Thank you to our very valued partner in Winslow in hosting this event. And my role, I am the Regional Sales Director for our Compute and Solutions Group for the New York, Connecticut area. And my peer Dave Foley is also on the call, who covers New England. And I've spent 10 years at Dell in various roles, and something I am very, very proud to share with all of you is Dell is the #1 compute vendor in the world and in North America, with the R740 being the best-selling server in the world. So that's very exciting, you know, to have seen that progression and that adoption of our incredible platform over the last 10 years that I've been here. And we're very much focused, you're going to hear today about our automation capability, security, scalability. And these are just some of the things that have really set us apart from our competitors over the years, delivering more value to you. And with that, I don't want to take up too much time. Just thank you all again for attending, and thank you to Winslow for being such an amazing partner.
Thank you, Bahar. Always great to hear from you. And we, for our part, appreciate the wonderful partnership that we have enjoyed with Dell Technologies over the last many, many years. That being said, just a quick overview of Winslow Technology Group. We are a technology solutions provider. We've been in business for a little over 16, now 17 years, headquartered in Waltham, Mass. That's just outside of Boston. We have a distributed workforce, and also recently opened the satellite offices in Charlotte, North Carolina, as well as New York, New York. Our goal is to identify and develop expertise in game-changing technologies, including our partnership with Dell Technologies being a great example of that. Winslow works with customers like you to tailor technology solutions that solve for both today's problems and tomorrow's opportunities. We specialize in hardware, software, services for core data center, as well as end user compute and cybersecurity. And since everyone is covering their job function and whatnot, I'd like to say that I come from the end user side myself, actually. Very happy to be celebrating my 1-year anniversary with Dell in about, with Winslow in about 2 weeks. This has been an amazing experience, and working with Dell Technologies made it that much more so. Winslow has been privileged to be awarded a number of recognitions, such as the Dell Technologies Titanium Partner, and we're proud to have other industry recognized awards, such as those from Computer Reseller News and Inc. 5000 for being the fastest private growing company. We have an installation base in 37 states and 4 Canadian provinces, as well as a few international locations. And with that, I'm going to join over to my partner, and Barry, over to you.
Good morning again, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I hope that you come away with some information that you perhaps didn't know when you came in. And I think it all sort of starts with, Dell's position in the marketplace as a seller of hardware platforms, and working with our partners such as Winslow Technology Group to deliver those platforms to our customers, to sort of help you understand what you need, build it appropriately, get it deployed appropriately, leave it in an operational state for as ever long as that application has to run for you, and then help you move it on to whatever the next piece needs to be. That life cycle is something that we pour a great amount of time and energy into understanding the life cycle of these things, and I think you'll see that throughout the presentation. So if we go to the next slide, please. Like Bahar was saying when she kicked it off earlier, Dell's the #1 server vendor in the world, and we have been for some time. And I think the numbers sort of speak for themselves. We don't need to crow about it too often, but when you, I think your view just changed, Alex. You're kind of in presentation mode with the side by side. I'll let you go to work on that. But I think that when you understand that the servers that you purchase just need to get in, work, and last, that's the thing that we bring to market, and we hope that again you'll see that throughout the presentation. We'll go to the next slide. Alex, we have you out there?
Yeah, are you able to see my screen correctly?
Oh, I got it. Yep, just changed. Could be on my end. So from the very beginning, I think there's no doubt that everything that we do to support IT is about supporting your applications. That from your perspective, the customer perspective, the application and the data that the application manages, maintains, or crunches is what is most important. Everything else, I refer to it as plumbing. We bring good plumbing to you, and we make sure that the data gets from point A to point B in the time and speed that it needs to get there. So in order to kind of reap those benefits, we know that our customers have to sort of make a jump into the modernization of the data center, what's been deemed modernization or transformation of the data center. That includes like all flash storage and cache, DC persistent memory for heavy duty database usage, low latency transports, high speed networking, and all of that stuff begins with the server. Because as far as, I am personally concerned, everything in your data center is a server. Whether it's a storage platform, a network switch, whether it's any of those things, they're all servers designed to do one specific thing. So it would sort of stand to reason that the company that builds the best servers is going to be able to help build and deliver the best everything else in the marketplace. And as we see the consolidation of these technologies through converge and hyperconverge and reference architectures, all different ways that these things can be built and delivered, I think you'll notice that Dell can deliver that from end to end, and it's our partners like Winslow that help bring it down to you, the customer, and get it in your data center because they have a much more local presence. There's somebody that may even be in your community, whereas Dell is certainly a global delivery mechanism for what we have. So if we sort of move on to the next slide. So I think one of the biggest things that we have available to us and available to you as customers, one of the important things about today's presentation is the automation portion of what Dell PowerEdge servers brings to the marketplace. And in that automation, we focus on 3 key components within all of our server platform. It's the iDRAC, it's the lifecycle controller, which couples with the iDRAC or partners with the iDRAC to help with the management of the platform throughout its life cycle, given its name. and Dell Open Manage, which is the software that comes delivered as a benefit to owning Dell servers that allows our customers to review, report on, and interact with all of the tools you sort of see here into the circle. One thing we take sort of great pride in is our ability to, every piece of hardware that we bring to the marketplace fits into this open managed portfolio. And it's not something that changes very often. The open managed portfolio, while it's updated and refreshed, it stays largely the same regardless of the piece of equipment you may be purchasing through Dell. So with that, just keep in mind that Open Manage, the iDRAC, and the lifecycle controllers are sort of the important things that we're going to key on throughout most of this conversation, because that really is the automation portion of this conversation. Next slide, please. It would stand to reason that if a customer manages a very large data center or medium-sized data center, they may have also been using tools that are not in the Dell portfolio. They may have been using tools such as VMware's vCenter, even tools, if they're coming off a platform like HP or coming off a platform like IBM or Lenovo, they may be familiar with those tools, and it would not be a good idea if we forced our customers to jump into our platform right away. While we do think it is a better and more robust platform than any other, we certainly want to make sure that the customer is comfortable with making any sort of switch or any sort of change to their workflow inside of their data center. We don't want to be too disruptive with those particular tools. So because we sort of design everything in space with the IEEE standards and those standards bodies that exist in IT, we work with third-party products and integrate very simply with those products. So if a customer wants to use something outside of the Dell Open Manage, it works flawlessly. If they want to use Open Manage, that tool is there for them as well. And from our partners' perspective, some partners who are delivering services such as managing your data center for you, these are the tools that they can also leverage to do that. So a conversation or a review of the Open Managed portfolio of tools and its connection into DRAC and Lifecycle Controller is certainly something that we want to encourage you to do on your own. You can do that, out on the web or in concert with Winslow, to understand how this tool works and all the benefits it can bring to streamlining the way your data center is managed and implemented. Next slide. So if you're looking to use third-party tools, or you are using third-party tools such as ServiceNow, such as VMware's vCenter, such as Red Hat's Ansible, understand that we integrate directly with those tools. It's not a bolt-on. There's no patches or things that have to be put into place to make it work. We work with it because we design our tools and our delivery mechanisms through the industry standards, and those industry standards are brought up by these other technologies as well. So with that, I think we get into the first question.
Indeed, Barry. Question number 1. What Dell PowerEdge server integrated hardware component provides Dell customers and their partners with advanced systems management to enable key server management tasks such as deploy, configure, update, maintain, diagnose, repurpose, and retire? Give everybody a few minutes a few seconds rather, to come up with an answer. Just send us an IM via the chat function. Barry did a very good job of actually letting us know, and looks like we have an answer. Yes, iDRAC is in fact what we were looking for. Well done, well done. So with that, we will move on. Barry, back to you, buddy.
Very good. So from Dell's perspective, we consider the building block of the modern data center to be the server. Right? And as I mentioned before, if you think of everything in your data center as primarily a server designed to do one thing very specifically, then you can understand that how we put together the memory, how we put together the processors, how we build it, how we cool it, how we power it, all of that stuff matters. And I know that from a customer's perspective, you don't necessarily have to concern yourselves with those things, as that's the job of the manufacturer. but we do it quite well. And with that, everything is sort of becoming software defined. So what VMware did 25 odd years ago with virtualizing the server, virtualizing the compute platform, we are starting to see every other technology inside the data center become virtualized as well. There are parties out there virtualizing network traffic. VMware does it, Cumulus does it, Big IP does it. Obviously, virtualizing storage is something that is in the mainstream today as well. Our new platforms in PowerStore, our platforms in Compellent were all virtualized platforms to begin with. So when we start to abstract that hardware layer, we're very, very good at it. And then what becomes important is the ability to deliver to the application. Instead of delivering a piece of hardware that we kind of put an application on, now we sort of design the hardware for the application specifically. So at Dell, while we make great servers to begin with, we also spend a lot of our R&D on how do we package and deliver and manage, maintain, patch these devices over time to make sure that the customer reduces their risk profile and also gets better value over time, taking their engineers and their IT staffs and putting them in place to accelerate their business as opposed to keeping the lights on. Next slide. So we start to build and deliver these things in a couple of different fashions. Now, you've all heard of converged and hyper-converged platforms, and we'll get to those in a bit. But we also deliver in another way that sort of comes from the buy it, build it yourself, DIY thinking, up to completely autonomous delivery, such as Dell PowerOne, such as VX Rack and VX Flex and those types of technologies. But it's sort of down at that other end, at that buy end, as we start to move from buy, or as we start to move from build to buy. I want to talk about ready nodes, ready bundles, and ready systems. This is where our partners really shine, because as customers may not be ready to move into the completely hyper-converged environment at the far end of that scale, they do want to move on, we find, from the completely build it yourself, because when you're in the completely build it yourself arena, the risk is much higher for you. You take the risk of every component that might be in one of those devices. So I'm sure folks have heard of ready nodes. There's vSAN ready nodes as a prime example. And what that really means is that all the components inside of that device we know are appropriate for a vSAN implementation. So the customer doesn't have to concern themselves with what components are in here and how do they, and do they work with VMware? We know that that is the case, but there's a little bit of a second support mechanism for the ready nodes. In terms of when you phone support and you've lost a hard drive or a NIC card has gone bad or something of that nature, when you call Dell and you've purchased a ready node and you use the service tag from that ready node, our support folks know immediately that that is a VMware vSAN ready node, which means the part they ship out to you must also be on the hardware compatibility list, because otherwise it could damage your vSAN implementation if a part that isn't compatible goes in. So by buying the ready node, you shift the risk of one, implementation up front by knowing all the parts are the correct parts for vSAN implementations, and two, all along the life cycle through support, Dell immediately knows that that's a vSAN ready node, and they immediately know there's certain parts they can't ship out should you lose a hard drive or a NIC card. So those things all help with the overall life cycle of the device. We take that a little bit further into ready bundles, where we can put two components together, such as storage and compute or storage and networking. And then we have ready systems, which are even further along that scale in terms of putting together large patch implementations that allow that to happen. So if we look at the application thinking, so now designing for the application, and we move on to the next slide, we'll see that these are the types of applications that we're building ready nodes, ready bundles, and ready systems for. Now, you're going to go out on Dell.com, you can sort of look at these bundles and you can sort of look at these packages based on Splunk or Hadoop or Cloudera or whatever. But understand that our partners are very well positioned and suited, and Winslow in particular. I know I've done some HPC work through Winslow back in the healthcare space, but I know they're very well suited to understand how these things are delivered and understand how these things can deliver value over the long term. So take a look at this list and understand that if this is something that your business is involved in, that we have very specific solutions to help you deliver that faster and bring your applications and bring your value to market faster. So as we move on to the next slide, we have all the servers, right? I'm not going to go into any sort of dissertation about all the different various models and where they begin and end and what types of components are in each, but we do have a variety of servers to fit pretty much any workload you can think of or you can want support for, from lower end one socket cabled up hard drives, value servers, all the way up to 4-socket, very robust, lots of GPUs, those types of things, and sort of anything in between. So understand that whatever you need built, we can deliver that technology, and our partners can help you to design something very specific for your needs. But I want to talk about something just a little more exciting, something a little more new and fresh, to show where Dell is today in terms of the in terms of delivering IT to the moment or delivering IT to the application. So if we sort of move to that next slide. If these are some of the, if you as customers fit into some of these buckets here, your world is going to fundamentally change as 5G starts to come online, and the ability to move data around becomes a little easier and more cost effective for our customers. And we sort of talk about that in terms of the edge. We talk about that in terms of more data being processed where it is collected, and that insights and value of that data are being utilized at that point. In retail, if you think about the Amazon Go stores, if you think about what Sam's Club does in terms of your ability to scan your items as they go in your cart and simply walk out the door without having to go through a cash register. If you think about all the video capabilities that could go on inside of retail to manage traffic flow of folks as they move through the store, to determine where to best put this particular product or where to best put that particular service person to talk about what it is you may be delivering. All of that information gets collected over time and needs to be analyzed and reported upon so that you can get value out of it almost immediately. And then that data then starts to move upstream to be analyzed in concert with other data inside of your data lakes and inside of your larger machine learning or data analytics platforms, in order to derive value out of that data over and over and over again over time, so that it's not just, it doesn't become stale early. So if we're in one of these particular industries that fit into these buckets, we can see some of the things that that play on the edge and the Internet of Things, which is a whole conversation unto itself. But we can see those things very readily, and I want you to know that we have solutions for them as well that you can access through our partners. So if we move to that next slide, this is sort of the hardware stuff that I like. This is where I grew up through the IT department. But as we look at the types of deployments on the edge and where they might be, we've always, for the last 5 or 6 years, we've had gateway products and we've had embedded box PCs that can collect and sort of move that traffic from that retail location or that edge location or that farm thing where it's collecting data about what's going on across the farm, soil samples and moisture levels and all of that. Hospitals that are collecting data on every floor, in every wing, about what's going on, all the telemetry that goes on into those spaces. That data can be acted upon much faster if we've got some processing capabilities. So from that edge computing and analysis type of spot, we've got the PowerEdge 2420, which is a very robust fanless server, small footprint, can be deployed outside of a data center and deliver value on that data right away. And we have other various pieces of hardware that are in that position as well. But this is some of the more exciting stuff to talk about. But in regards to edge computing, it is the real-time analytics, it is the AI and deep learning that we're designing our systems to deliver for those applications that need that as well. So understand that while we've got a whole load of servers to do all sorts of things, we also have some very, very particular ones that are being designed for this new and latest technology that's coming around on the edge in the Internet of Things. And we'll move to the next one.
And thanks, Barry. This is actually where I'd like to present everyone with a Dell EMC and Winslow customer success story. So we can talk in theory about all of these wonderful technologies basically till the cows come home, but the rubber meets the road when it comes to the customer, when we actually can relate a story like this to you. And it's even sweeter when it's a competitive replacement, which this was. So the ultimate solution ended up being a MX7000 cluster. There was actually a couple of them being deployed across the country from each other. And for purposes of anonymity, obviously we won't identify the customer themselves, but suffice it to say it's a longtime client that happens to be in the healthcare industry. And as anyone who's familiar with that vertical can attest, there is a ton of data collection. There's also a lot of analytics and so on and so forth. So if you take a look at this neat little solution here, we have a combination of the compute and the storage sleds that were actually ended up being separated out. The customer was somebody who valued the processing power of the compute sleds within the MX7000, but then they wanted more control over their storage and processing. They didn't want them combined. And the cloud model is actually, it's great in terms of availability and virtualization and making everything so software defined, but it's not really all that great always with giving you that much control over your resources. So there are times when customers, such as this one, realize the benefits of having that on-prem. A lot of it has to do with performance. Not every workload is well suited for the cloud. And also, there is the matter of capital expense versus the operational expense. They liked the notion of the predictable on-prem, both performance and a budgetary expenditure that would be facing them annually. And they basically realized that they wanted to keep the stuff on hand. The other catalysts that were involved here, and by the way, the workloads that this system is supporting, it's a VMware virtualization environment that is supporting both Windows and Linux virtual machines. The other catalysts were that the solution and maintenance costs over the existing Cisco UCS solution were so much lower. And to Barry's earlier point with management capability, it was worlds apart. So the other feedback that we received back from the customer is that the implementation for these systems took days, just a couple of them, rather than an entire week. And then some unsolicited customer feedback, and boy, do we love that stuff. They said these systems just work and they're easier to manage. Oh, and by the way, an update that's literally about a day old at this point, they've bought even more compute power to add to these sleds. So needless to say, the customer is very happy with the MX7000 cluster that is connecting to an all-flash Compellent SC7020 storage array. And with that, Barry, unless you have something else to add, we are up to question number 2.
Nope, I think we're ready.
All right, cool. So question number 2 is, name any of the 3 new edge computing functional areas powered by Dell EMC PowerEdge servers. We'll give everybody just a few seconds to punch in some answers. So there are 3 possible answers, just any of them is fine. And again, I'm sorry to say that for anyone who won a question 1, I'm afraid you're not eligible to win again, but that shouldn't keep you from trying because we have yet to announce the winners. And Still looking for the right answer. I see a few answers having come in. I'm refraining from playing the Jeopardy music.
Well, listen, that was a great success story that you showed there. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's our pleasure. I mean, folks are essentially very, very happy with being in a hybrid environment, because at the end of the day, that's basically a cloud environment that you own, that's on-prem, you have it. And the other thing, obviously, that is really, really key, especially in that vertical, is confidentiality and security. So how better protect something that's within your perimeter that you can touch? Okay, I believe we have a winner. So with that, Barry, back to you.
So across the looking at the build to buy continuum that I touched on earlier, that I expressed earlier, what you're really doing in that continuum is it comes from customers doing everything themselves, or customer buying an outcome with a hyper-converged or converged environment. And this is all obviously on-prem. We start to see that you're shifting that risk from yourselves to the partner and to Dell as you sort of move along that spectrum. You're letting us take the risk for you and purchasing the ability to just simply run the application, much like you do in the cloud. I mean, that's one of the cloud's big draws, right? You don't have to concern yourself with the hardware. You just worry about the application and the data that the application produces. We know there's some challenges with all of that, and there are also some benefits of moving those workloads out. But the idea for us, and if we move on to the next slide, we'll take it from there. But the idea for us is to help you deliver on-prem what you get in the cloud, to be able to use that same methodology for your marketing department and your legal department and your operations department and every department that you might have that needs IT services, to be able to give them what they need in a very fast and simple mechanism, very fast and simple workflow. So we talked about ready nodes, and obviously they're an important part of what we do and what we deliver. If we go to the next slide, we have VxRail and VxRack. These are the hyper-converged environments, and these are what get customers to the point of delivering cloud-like on their premises. So no matter where they find the best benefit to run their application, whether it be in Amazon, whether it be in Google Cloud, or whether it be on-prem, that the customer gets to make the decision of what's best for them in the moment. And if circumstances should change, they need to be able to bring that application back on-prem or move that application out to the cloud because the mechanics or the cost model changes enough to make it more advantageous to have it there. They need to be able to have the flexibility to do that. So you take a look at something like VMware Cloud Foundation, which is certified across our platforms to be delivered, and you'll find that the VxRail, the VxRack, those things that we've been delivering for some time now, and are, by the way, also the #1 HCI or hyperconverged platform delivered in the world, you'll find that that jointly engineered appliance really helps because we work directly with VMware to build the appliance in the first place. So we're not just taking VMware's product and trying to retrofit it to our hardware. We're actually jointly developing it and jointly bringing it to market so that we know it all works properly together. So these sorts of appliances, these VxRails and VxRack and VxFlex, are all jointly developed so that that appliance works. So that Virtual Cloud Foundation, giving you that ability to deliver on-prem, the same thing you get in the cloud, is ready to run almost, day one, day two. And our partners can also, obviously partners like Winslow can help you deploy that very specifically. And I think, Alex, you now have some metrics around that you've been working with that I think you want to show next.
Yeah, so actually you touched on a couple of interesting points, which are essentially a natural segue into our hybrid cloud assessment. And the point that you really made, which I think our customer success story also touched upon, is the fact that, something at the end of the day, perhaps not every workload is suitable for the cloud operating model. I know that there's a lot of people out there that would like to try to convince you otherwise, but at the end of the day, the reality just may not necessarily support that vision. So we have developed in-house. It was actually our Chief Technology Officer, Rick Gowan, who developed this tool in-house. We call it the HCAT. It's the Hybrid Cloud Assessment Tool, which essentially will take the end result of a live optics collection, which, by the way, is a Dell tool, used to be called DPAC, and we'll take the output of that collection, run it through a tool in-house, and just basically give you a comparison of what an on-prem cost would look like versus Amazon or AWS. In this screen here, you see actually a couple of screenshots. On the left is the dashboard of that LO collection, and on the right is the output of our HCAT. And on that note, we have arrived at question number 3, which is, what is the only jointly engineered appliance with VMware Cloud Foundation integration? And let's give everybody just a few seconds to type in some answers, please. And then I'll start wrapping up the presentation by touching on a number of Winslow offerings and how we fit into this. Okay.
I think you got one there.
I absolutely do. So we have a winner. So everyone, thank you so much for participating in the questions. On that note, let me move on to how Winslow fits into this picture. And, speaking of, shifting that responsibility, Dell makes great stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're really not much of a do-it-yourself, or you just want the tried and true knowledge experience of somebody coming up with what that solution really should be, as specific to your environment, your application, because at the end of the day, that's all we're trying to support, you involve a services team from a partner such as Winslow. So no data center project would be complete without engineering services, such as design implementation. And what are some of those resources that go into this? Well, we have a lot of rigorous training. Basically what that means is, in our region, great IT engineers are remarkably hard to come by. We do everything we can to keep our engineers happy, healthy, and engaged in order to deliver the best customer service experience and technical outcome. There's also the training and certification requirements. We must be authorized to deliver services by our OEMs, and we generally exceed those minimum requirements to provide for some engineer redundancy. Our engineers do undergo rigorous training and certification testing throughout the year to keep their skills current and in good standing with our OEM partners. And personally speaking, I have to admit that that is also extended to the server architecture portion of our organization. So we're very, very similarly trained and certified as well. Then as far as our service delivery, we collect data on the performance to right-size each engagement, ensuring that an engineer has adequate time to carefully and thoughtfully complete services without the interference of overlapping projects. This includes, spending time planning, organizing before an engagement, and developing documentation, as well as any knowledge transfer after the engagement. So we also cover liability and insurance. Stuff does happen. And at the end of the day, the other thing that really comes into play here is what we bring to the table, which we term as the WTG difference. Our number one priority is customer satisfaction. We have a combined of over 100 years of experience amongst our engineers, which includes having a lot of industry-leading certifications with field-tested real-world backgrounds. As I mentioned before, I come from the customer side, 24 years of experience of running my own data centers. So do our engineers. We have full-time project managers on staff, and we have a deep ecosystem of trusted partners, Dell Technologies being the primary one. In terms of the types of different service engagement models that we provide, they include project-based work, staff augmentation, engineering experience, time and materials, also known as block hour agreements, maintenance and support contracts, customized training, and cybersecurity services. And speaking of cybersecurity services, no IT infrastructure would be complete without addressing the ever-present need for proper cybersecurity. Winslow's cybersecurity practice follows the 5 pillars of the NIST cybersecurity framework. And illustrated here in this slide, a bit of an eye chart, I'm afraid, is how those various technologies and services from which we, with which we partner, how they line up with those 5 pillars of that framework. And as you can see, we offer to our customers an organized and comprehensive cybersecurity program that is also cost effective. So that being said, our next month's webinar is going to be on August 26th at 11:30, where we will cover Winslow Tech Talk Episode 3, supporting traditional and modern workloads with Dell PowerStore, including a live demonstration. Lori, do we have any questions? I have not seen any come across. Does anyone have any questions about the material we just covered?
I don't have any just yet.
Great. Barry, any final thoughts from you, my friend?
No, I think that, you know, we just want the customers to come away with the thought that the server is important. It matters. The ability to manage it matters. And the folks that you use to deploy and engineer for you also matters. And, you know, we certainly support Winslow, and we thank you for giving us the opportunity to join you today.
Great, thanks very much. And we thank everyone for the opportunity to be able to speak to them about these by no means commoditized pieces of equipment, which at the end of the day are the foundation, the building block of the modern data center. And if you have any additional questions regarding the seminar or about the HCAT or the Stay Vigilant cybersecurity assessment, please contact us at webinars@winslowtg.com. I've taken a note of the winners from the 3 questions, and our marketing folks will absolutely be reaching out to you. On that note, thank you all. Looks like we've finished on time. Appreciate your time and looking forward to catching you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Barry.